This is a Hot Pie Media original. Hello and welcome to the Amy Edwards Show. I'm your host, Amy Edwards. You guys, we have such a badass on the show today. Shelly Paxton, she's the author of Soulbatical, and she's going to just tell us everything from a really beautiful, authentic, vulnerable, courageous space about how to be the chief soul officer of your life. It is a phenomenal conversation. I love this woman. We just met today having this conversation. And I mean, we declared ourselves soul sisters and she's one of us, everybody. So I'm just so excited to share this conversation with you today. Thank you for being here. Are you ready to just liberate yourself, transform yourself, keep getting better? Me too. That is why we're here. So let's do this thing. Thank you for being here. Rate, review, subscribe, do all the things. Reach out to me at amy@amyedwards.com. There's a little bit of business, but I'm ready to get to today's show. So let's do it. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Or perhaps you just know there are some deeper things that you need to get to, like me. And professional therapy could be the answer. Well, BetterHelp is ready to assist you, and it is a magnificent platform of licensed professional therapy done securely online. I am a client, and I am getting a lot out of it. When you sign up, you can start communicating in under 48 hours, and you can get matched up with a great therapist that's right for you. And if you feel for some reason that it's not a perfect match, you can change therapists at no cost to you and no questions asked. I know because I did it and it was great. And actually, I've bonded with my therapist now, and I'm really, really getting a lot out of it. So I am recommending this from a place of actual real life stuff here. They are more affordable too than traditional offline therapy. Plus, you don't have the drive time, which is really nice. And they're committed to helping people live a better, happier life like right now. So check out their testimonials at betterhelp.com/reviews. There's a zillion of them. If mine's not enough, go get more. And you can go to betterhelp.com/AES and get 10% off of your first month with BetterHelp. So join over the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health like me, and just simply give it a shot. 10% off with betterhelp.com/AES. Okay. Hello. Lighten up my Palo Santo, getting in the mood to podcast, in the mood to talk, in the mood to share, in the mood to be vulnerable, in the mood to dive in. I'm so excited to share Shelly with you today. It was just such a, I knew she was going to be cool, but damn, she's very cool. And she is a marketing genius. So all her stuff just fits together and speaks to you. She knows what's up. She worked as the chief marketing officer for Harley-Davidson for 26 years. All the Harley shit we saw for years and years, her hand was in it. A total badass. And she left that in 2018 because it wasn't filling her up. She felt success empty, not success full. How cool is that, right? And so she made changes. She made the changes that she needed to make. So I'm so excited to tell you more about her in a few minutes. She hit on something that I wanted to talk about today too in this intro. This is something I read in, and I mentioned this with her today too, that I read in Facing Codependency by Pia Mellody. It is one of the classic codependent books, which, I've been delving into that a little bit. Having been with someone who's an addict, I had to take a look at myself, get curious about myself, as Shelley talks today about getting curious about things. I had to get curious about my own patterns. And one of the things that she talks about in that book is, there's a lot about self-esteem, obviously. That is a core issue, self-worth and self-esteem, a core issue in addiction, in codependency, in a lot of tendencies that we have. So I learned this and I wanted to share it. we can look for worth within ourselves, and that is healthy self-esteem. She tells a story about someone hitting rock bottom and how he had nothing. He had no job anymore. He had lost his family, lost it all. So he had literally nothing to base his self-worth on except himself, except the I amness of him, just being and feeling worthy just as you, which we've talked about a lot on this show. The other end of that is other esteem, as she calls it. Other esteem is finding our worth in all this outside stuff, which is essentially beyond our control. It was beyond his control. He lost it all. All he really had was this right here, this self. So someone else was in rehab with this guy. The other person in rehab hadn't lost it all. So he was feeling a little bit superior, a little bit one up on this person who was at rock bottom and had lost everything. So that person was not really seeing everyone as worthy. Instead, he was still basing some of his self-worth on other esteem, his amount of money in the bank that he still had. And she said to the other guy, to the rock bottom guy, he has a harder road ahead than you do. You've already lost it all. So you're going to be able to find your worthiness a lot easier and with a lot less work than somebody who's still basing it on the other. So I tell this to just bring to our attention how many times we base our worth on other esteem. I've done it so many times. I'm sure I'm probably doing it in some way right now. We base it on the kind of car we drive, our looks, because that can go, the partner that we have, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, the amount of money that we have, our status, our job title. Shelley and I covered this too, because she had to let go of a really sexy job title, Chief Marketing Officer at Harley-Davidson, an iconic worldwide brand. I mean, that's big to let go of. It's not only part of your identity, it's part of your self-esteem. It's part of what makes you feel like you are worth something in this world. So how can we pay attention to these ways that we are other esteeming ourselves and drop them? They aren't what makes us valuable. They could be gone in a second. One way that I have paid attention to, I would say in the last 10 years or so, is luxury goods. I like them, and I've had to explore why I like them. Why do I carry a Balenciaga bag? Or, why do I want to buy something that's Chanel and wear those C's on you? And I read a prayer from Rob Bresney years ago. Rob Bresney, he goes by Rob Bresney Truth Rooster. He has free will astrology that's always back in the back of a lot of alternative newspapers like the Austin Chronicle. It's always in the back there. The Dallas Observer, free will astrology. You can look it up. He wrote Pronoia. I'm just a big fan of Rob Bresney. But he wrote a prayer and I loved it so much. And one of the lines in the prayer was, help me let go of all the things I hold on to that make me feel like I'm better than someone else. So that goes for all these other esteem things. But it made me think too, why are we carrying luxury goods? Is it because it's making us feel just a little bit better, a little bit more worthy? And it goes for anything, There's going to be status symbols no matter what you're in. If you're in the comic book world, I bet, you're feeling a little cooler because you have, I don't know. I was going to try to make a Dungeons and Dragons reference, but I don't have one to make. So I don't know. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. There's all these little things that can other esteem us. And so today is just a moment to notice them. to notice them. And I'm not saying you have to, get rid of all your things, get rid of your things that you like, but pay attention to if they are making you feel better about yourself and like just a little bit of a one up on other people, a little bit of, I'm feeling worthy because I've got this in my hand, because I'm driving this, because this. Just a caution to not base our worthiness on these outside things, to recognize them for what they are, other esteem, and to really find our true worthiness in ourself, in our integrity, in our honesty, in our voice, in our, I was going to say in our story. No, our story can also other esteem us, I think, because we tell ourselves stories. So maybe drop that too. Just let that go. It doesn't have to identify you. I just thought of Justin, and how his story has become such a part of who he is. Can he let that go? Just be worthy just as yourself. Shelley and I talked today about dating, and that was an interesting process for me in dating. Just showing up as me rather than all the things that would make me worthy of dating, like all the things that I bring to the table. And I was like, why am I bringing all this shit to the table? Like, because then I'm going to be more worthy to date rather than just showing up as myself. I was like, oof, I've been doing that in relationships my whole fucking life. Look how much I bring to the table. And it's like, oh shit. No, there's no table. There's no table. Or let someone else bring something to the table. I don't know. But as far as we go, just show up as you. You are worthy just as you are. You don't need the other esteem. Even though that's a hard habit to break in the society and culture that we live in. Letting go of that other esteem. So anyway, just get curious about it, as Shelley talks about today. And I am excited to bring this conversation to you. Her name is Shelley Paxton, ShelleyPaxton, Shelly Paxton. And let me just read you a little bit of her bio. Okay? Because she's a total badass. Her whole mission here, when she filled out my little intake sheet, is liberate your soul and step into your power. I am like, you are speaking my language. Yes, please. More, please. More, please. So here's what it says in her bio. Are you ready? Think Brene Brown meets Biker Babe with a dash of Liz Gilbert. Yo, that's a tall order. She completely lives up to it. Completely. I love her. She was chief marketing officer of Harley-Davidson for 26 years. She found herself at the top of, the food chain in the executive world with the coolest job ever. And she found herself feeling success empty rather than success full, F-U-L-L, like full. And that awakening that she had led her on a profound soul-batical journey that became her mission, her business, and her best-selling book. It's called Soul-Batical, A Corporate Rebel's Guide to Finding Your Best Life. And she is now leading a revolution to rewrite the script of success and liberate 1 billion souls. I mean, I absolutely love it. And she just brings a soul message of courageousness, vulnerability, and authenticity. She is walking the walk 100%. And she tells us about the book that she's writing next. And she tells us what she's going through right now. And she tells us her practice. And she tells us how to be the chief soul officer of your life. And if you know what, if you're like, I don't know if that title's quite right for me, well, we're going to talk about how to create your own title and one that you are proud and maybe it other esteems you. I don't know. Is that a bad thing? I don't fucking know. It's yours. So maybe if it's something that you made up, that you own, why not? Why not? We're also going to talk about how you are your own iconic brand. So own it and own your voice loud and proud. I love this woman. She is a total fucking badass. And I'm so excited because this just sort of was one of those things that someone reached out and was like, pitched her to be on my show. And I was like, oh, fuck yes. It was a giant fuck yes. So anyway, I encourage you to go read more about her after you hear her speak, because her website, I mean, she's a marketing magician. It's incredible. I was like, I need to redo my whole website and model it off of hers. So anyway, I love her branding, everything about it. It's incredible. She's incredible. As we said in the thing, she is ready for her TED Talk. So I would say look for it soon. I think she's going to manifest that in no time. You can find all things Shelley at Soulbatical, SOULBBATICAL. So just like sabbatical, but just soul instead of sa. So 2 B's, soulbatical.com. You can find her at Soulbatical on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you do your thing online. So I'm so excited to share all things with her today. Stick around to the end because we are going to have an affirmation for you. And I'm stoked to share my new soul sister with you. She's coming to us from Chicago, where she is based, and she hopes to be in Austin sometime. So anyway, and do pick up her book. You can simply go to soulbatical.com and you can order her book right there, Soulbatical. So let's get to today's interview with Shelley Paxton. Oh, Shelley, I'm just so excited to get to visit with you. You were not in my field of vision, and I'm not sure how. And I love everything that you're about. Everything about your whole brand resonates with my soul, which that's what it's all about. And so I just want to say hi. Hi.
Hi. I feel like calling you soul sister because I said the same thing to you. As soon as I saw you, I was like, as I've dug in, I'm like, how do we not know each other? How are we not already like BFF soul sisters? And we are now. Let's just declare it.
I am 100% in soul sister. So thank you. That makes me feel really good because you're such a badass, and you've done so much in your life, and you're raising your voice in a way that just speaks to my heart and every fiber of my being. So as we get started, I just want to check in with you. Do you have like an intention today? Do you have an intention as you're showing up here? And like, what would that be?
Oh, I love that you asked that at the beginning of your show. So for me, it's always showing up authentically, courageously, and vulnerably. Because I believe like the deeper we go and the more we're able to share about our stories, the more we connect with other humans and amazing souls. So that's my intention.
Totally. Mine too. Really. Mine was just to fully show up. But really, you encompass everything when you say courageously, vulnerably, and authentically. I mean, that's pretty much covering your basis, like of showing up fully. And really, that's kind of the goal for every moment of every day, isn't it?
I was just going to say, it's kind of my life statement and my mission in like the work of my life. So yes. And I have to remind myself every day and set that intention every day, because it's really easy to kind of like want to, creep back and play small and all the things. But I know to raise our voices and speak our truth, and all of that requires me to show up authentically, courageously, vulnerably every freaking day.
You know what? That was really my next question. I was going to ask, like, how are you? How does, if you were living this daily and how that looks for you? Like, but it's a practice.
Yeah. I mean, one of the practices for me, and it's funny, I have these, actually I don't have what I wrote this morning, but I'll show you. So I write orange Post-it notes to myself every morning, and these are my permission slips. And I literally, I post these all over, and I give myself permission. Like today, I'm giving myself permission to be in the surrender of the not knowing. I'm in a season in my life where I've just thrown all the pieces up in the air, and I'm like, I don't know what my business wants to be. I know I'm getting more clear on it. I'm just kind of upending everything, and I am learning to be in the surrender of just the not knowing and the letting things percolate. And it's really fucking hard.
It's
like, so I write myself permission slips every day to remind myself to be. And I asked myself the question, like, Shelley, what do you need to feel, to not feel, or to do, or to be in order to show up as your most powerful, badass self today? That's literally what I will write. The answer to that, I will splatter on orange Post-it notes all over my house to remind myself. It's a practice.
What was the answer today?
Today was the surrender and the not knowing. Because I'm really struggling with this, like, I want to know, oh my gosh, we're at the end of the year. How do I not fucking know what I want 2022 to be? And it's like, well, you don't. And that's okay. And just let yourself be in it, because I can already tell that my synapses are firing. And so I'm really trying to be playful and have fun with it and give myself all the white space and the time, permission to play, maybe in a way that I don't always give myself permission to play, knowing that this is the exact thing I need to figure out, what's coming. So
it's like I'm dreaming you, because that is the exact place I'm in my life. Very much so. Oh. And for me, it's extreme. It's extreme because just being without an answer is like so counter to the way that I have functioned in the past and the way that I want to function. Like we want answers. We seek answers. We seek patterns and answers. And I am living in this space right now of, okay, can you just be and not know? And that's an extreme for me. Which is so weird because 100%. It doesn't feel like an extreme.
Yeah. And it's an extreme for me too. I mean, I spent 26 years in the corporate world, and as a really high level leader where it was like, my job, or at least I thought, this is so interesting, right? I thought my job was like to know and to have the answers and to be prepared at all times for all scenarios. And it's like, wow. Wonder what leadership would have been like. I would have been an even more powerful leader if I would have been like, I don't know, right? We're going to figure it out together. We don't have to have all of the answers. So I love playing around with that because it feels counterintuitive, right? But slowing down, I had a coach and one of his famous lines is in my book, and it's something I still say every single day. We have to slow down to speed up.
Everything's a fucking paradox right now. I mean, like the deeper I go in learning, everything is like exactly the opposite of what you think it should be. And when you're letting go of control, that means more opens up. That means you find out more. And it's like, wait, what? I want to hold on. I want to control.
Exactly. I'm like white knuckling, the steering wheel of life. And I'm like, nope, back off, sister, back off, right? The universe has got this. And it is scary. It's really scary, especially when, we're talking about our lives and our livelihoods. And I'm trusting, right? Along with surrender comes the trust. And trusting myself and trusting the universe and trusting that, the 51 years that I've been on this planet and all of the incredible work that I've done and every step I've taken forward has always led me to a more powerful place. And so here I am.
That's so powerful to realize. And so many times we don't realize that. We think like the best days are gone or something, I don't know, just bullshit that we tell ourselves. And how'd your trust journey How has your trust journey looked? I'm curious about that.
That's a really interesting question. So, I mean, listen, I still struggle with this. I'm signing up for one of my intentions was to be super vulnerable. Like I'm really struggling, and I'm checking back in with, first and foremost, trusting myself. So it all starts there, right? And this is where, when I decided to leave my corporate career 5 years ago, I was really trusting myself. And I think it's the first time in my whole life, I was 46 years old when that happened. I think it was the first time in my whole life that I was like, I'm trusting this knowing inside of me. When everyone else around me, the peanut gallery was like, you don't leave a job. You don't leave one of the sexiest jobs in marketing. You're the chief marketing officer of Harley-Davidson. Who does that? And people would give a limb to be in that job, working for this iconic brand that people tattoo on their bodies. And listen, I don't take any of it for granted. I have zero regrets, love my career. And at the same time, I realized I wasn't trusting myself and listening to this voice inside that I was just feeling empty. I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I wasn't feeling connected with my soul. And so my step into the world that I now live in, and this kind of conversation that you and I are having, was trusting myself, that little voice had something to tell me. And that if I listened more deeply and I slowed down and I got quiet, maybe for the first time in my life, it had something, that it was the beginning of something. And so it's been a journey, and I'm sure it will be for, as long as I'm in this body, it'll be a journey for me to really, truly sink into trusting myself, because we're really good at lying to ourselves. And my favorite question is, what are you pretending not to know? And I ask myself this all the time, because I'm like,
I love that.
Know.
Oh, what are you pretending not to know? Mm-hmm. I think about it in like a confusion standpoint, because a lot of times people are like, I'm confused. And I'm like, are you really? Are you really confused? Because a lot of times if we just sit there for a minute, we're not confused. No. I like this question.
And we don't want to sit there. We don't want to sit there for a minute because it's scary. It's scary as fuck. We have to face ourselves. We have to face the truth, which is inconvenient. And it's often not the thing we're doing, or the way we're being, or the relationship we're in, or whatever the work that we're doing, whatever it is, it's scary, right? And it's courageous, right? It's inviting us to show up in a bigger way in our own lives, in a more authentic way in our own lives.
And it's that uncomfortableness, because you're out of your comfort zone. So you're making yourself uncomfortable. So you're like, wait, I want to like eat something and distract myself.
I want to drink everything in the house and eat everything in the house.
Yeah.
Totally.
Anything to distract. What are you pretending that you don't know? Oh, I'm going to have to mull that one over. I want to figure out what I'm pretending that I don't know. Probably
that anything come up for you right
probably
now?
That I don't know the way, like I like to try to look outside myself for the way it's done. And it's like, there's no way it's done. Whatever it is, there's no way it's done. Yeah. So that came up for me right now, because everything you're saying is just a space that I'm in right now. Maybe it's partly our age too. I don't know. Maybe as women, we grow at 50-ish. I'll be 50 in 2022. And so, maybe that's part of a big growth realignment in our late 40s. I think it could be.
Yeah, it very well could be. And I think sitting with that, it's funny that you should say, I'm looking for the way outside of me, because I fell in that trap. I call those the shoulds, right? We should all over ourselves all the time. And I caught myself this year in the shoulds. And I was like, oh, well, a business should look this way, or I'm an author, and all successful authors, like you look at Gabby Bernstein, or, choose whoever you want to choose. They all have online courses that go with their books. So you should have an online course. You should do this. You should do that. And every time I would start to go down those paths, I would be like, this doesn't light me up. And then I would beat myself up, because I'm like, well, this is how it's done. This is what it looks like. This is the way. And I finally, the surrender that I'm in right now is like, no, the way is inside of me. And it's funny, because I'm a rebel, and I'm like, did you forget how to break the rules, Shelley? Where did you lose the plot? Because the way is inside of you, and you'll know, just slow down and listen and reconnect. And so that's the space that I'm also in right now. And just to say, how do I want to do this? Because it doesn't have to look the way everybody else is doing, entrepreneurship or whatever it is. It should look my way. It will look my way. And the Amy way will look your way.
And it's so funny that that's such an act of a rebel act, right? Like to just say, I'm going to slow down and look within myself. How rebellious,
It is.
It is.
Well,
it really is.
Also, Amy, you know this. I mean, one of my favorite lines that came spewing out of me as I was writing the book is, authenticity is the truest form of rebellion.
It really is. You're not conforming to all the shoulds, to all the ways that society has told you need to be. or you need to not tell that. You need to not tell that. That's too much. That's going too far. You could lose it. You could lose your job. You could lose this. You could lose your whatever, you know? I don't subscribe to that anymore.
No, me either. But I realized, like, in hindsight, I was like, wow, for a rebel, I was doing an awful lot of like contorting and conforming. What was going on there? It was like the people pleaser side of me. So I say that to remind, you and I, as we're in this season of surrender and trust and really honoring what is my way forward, it will come to us and we'll know. And for everyone listening, the same thing. Authenticity is the truest form of rebellion. Like, you staying true to you in a world that doesn't want you to be you, that wants you to conform to all the things, is beautiful rebellion. I always call it rebelling for, because I think, although ironically, I'm in a black leather jacket today, I normally, it's like, when you say rebel, it's like, oh, James Dean, whatever. People don't always associate with those characters. And I believe we're all rebels. Like really, really deep down in our soul, because we're rebelling for who we are, what we want, and the impact we want to have in the world. And rebelling for is expansive and it's empowering and it's liberating. Rebelling against is like doing it on somebody else's terms. So I think it's really powerful. Like, if you sit back and you go, oh yeah, what am I rebelling for? Mm-hmm. That's a cool way to start a new year. What am I rebelling for in 2022?
I love that, because you hear that. I've heard that too, as far as like, political movements and things like that. And they'll say, I'm fighting against. And when you make that your focus, it's going to feel like that, like you're constantly fighting against. So shifting that around to fighting for, or shifting that, rebelling against society, the patriarchy, or whatever we're told, but rather like saying, okay, I'm rebelling for this. I love that shift. That's really powerful.
It is. It's empowering. It's empowering, right? For all of us to go, yeah, what am I rebelling for?
Yeah.
And this idea that it's like for, and you can personalize it, right? Rebelling for, you asked me at the beginning, like, I would say I'm rebelling for a life of authenticity, courage, and purpose. Boom. Like, that's what my work stands for. And that's how I want to show up every day in what I do and inspire others. I say I'm on a mission to liberate 1 billion souls. I want to inspire other people to do the same, to live the same, to lead the same.
Yeah.
It just feels so good to me that more, like you and I said, like, more badass, authentic voices are out there doing life on their own terms.
Yeah. And it's very liberating. Like you said, your message, liberate your soul. That's what your whole point is with the book, liberating our soul. I love the word liberate too. It's so,
me too.
It just feels so good. And they say the truth will set you free. It will. Turns out that's true. Turns out that's a cliche. Amen, for a reason.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yes. So let's talk about how I love a good how to become Chief Soul Officer, which is so cute. I love Chief Soul Officer. It's great. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Chief Soul Officer. So it's interesting. Well, let me do this. I'm going to read. So this is really funny. I have gotten so many comments on language creation. So it's clear that, I spent 26 years in advertising and marketing, and I'm more of a creative spirit. And what I didn't realize is, like, language is my thing. I not only love words, I love to create words and universes. And I've kind of created this whole lexicon as I've been on this journey.
It's so good. Like, you're so good. As I was reading it, I was like, oh, it shows like what you do and what you did. You're so good at it. I'm really hypersensitive to like words and all this kind of stuff. And it just all fits together. It feels good. It's good.
Oh, that's high praise, sister. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Receive that. Good. I really do. Thank you. So I was recently challenged, and I've been doing a little bit of this on Instagram, to say, hey, can you put like a finer point on the definition of all these words that you've created? Because they're in my book, but I just sort of talk about them very naturally in my experience being Chief Soul Officer, this thing I just created overnight when I was having a complete meltdown at Harley. And so recently I put pen to paper, and I literally, this is what came out of me. I have it in front of me because I look at this all the time. A badass, so this is a Chief Soul Officer.
Okay.
Which, by the way, I want everyone listening to this to close their eyes, unless you're driving, of course, and think about like, this is you. You too can own this title. Like, I don't ever want to be the only person on the planet who has this title. I want us all to be chief soul officer of our life. And here's what it means. A badass who takes responsibility for the direction of their life and courageously creates it in alignment with their truth, values, and purpose.
Yes. I'm doing it. I'm already the chief soul officer of my
life.
You
already are.
But
you already are.
It is a work in progress. It is something that I have to cultivate. It is something that I have to practice all the time. It's not like it's a one and done title or anything like that. No. So, but yeah.
Well, and to be honest, to that point, so, and so I guess to your question of how to, it is a practice. And so a little backstory, this came up because, so I created this title and this concept of soulbatical when I was preparing to tell everyone that I was leaving this sexiest job in the world. And I was getting all this chatter of like, no, nobody does that. You don't leave one job before you have another. You never leave when you're, at the top of the mountain, all the things. Everybody had an opinion, of course.
They were shitting all over you.
All the traditional definitions of success, all the things that just didn't feel right or fit right. And yet, and I think this was partially the marketer in me and probably partially like some insecurity coming up where I was like, how am I going to talk about what I'm doing? Because it's not I wasn't going on vacation. I wasn't going on a traditional sabbatical. I was quitting, but it's like I had this intention and this purpose that felt so deep to me and just so rich. And so I was like, how do we talk about it? And I woke up one morning and it was just clear as day. And so I give that backstory because I was really title sensitive at the time when I was doing this. I was chief marketing officer of Harley-Davidson. So titles meant something to me. I now realize like that was part of like what I was clinging to because it was my identity at the time.
Yes.
I hadn't done all the work. But what I love about this now is, so it came to me for that reason. But why this title stays with me, and it's still what I call myself in my business today, chief soul officer of my business, is because I knew it would remind me every morning when I woke up that I report to this higher order of my soul, which basically means I report to this higher order of my truth and my essence. And it's what I am here to honor. And I thought, how beautiful is that? So as a practice, as a how-to, it's quite honestly, the only reason I've hung on to the title is because it reminds me that this, that my soul is my GPS. My soul is my true north. And that's what I'm here. And as long as I continue to honor my truth, I will keep moving forward and I will keep having an impact in the world. And that's what I love about it and why I invite everybody to try it on for size and use it for themselves. What a great reminder.
It's incredible. And we are I say we, meaning everyone, we are sensitive to titles, I think, as much as I'd like to say they don't matter. You know what? We're still human and they still can sink in. So I think there's a lot of power in thinking up your own title and owning that. Even if someone were to find a different title, like, whatever it might be, just maybe explore and create your own and get in touch with your soul. I think that's really cool because I haven't recorded my intro yet for this, but that was one of the things that I was going to talk about today. So it's really interesting that you brought that up, was just the self-esteem versus other esteem, which in Other Esteem, I got that out of Pia Melody's book, Facing Codependence. And she was just talking about so many times we look for it outside ourselves with job titles, how much money we have, whatever it is, you name it. And so I'm sure, it was part of your identity, but it was part of your self-worth to a certain extent. So you're reaching for something new and saying, all right, if I'm going to really create my own self-worth and really dip into here, then I can title myself whatever the hell I want and have it really be meaningful and powerful.
Yeah. I love that you're connecting all of those things because that's what it was. I didn't realize it at the time. That's the journey that I've been on and will forever be on, was to really understand that my enoughness, my worth is inside of me and it is my truth. And I had to connect with that first to really start believing it and really start believing in myself in a way that wasn't connected to all the things that I had been taught or conditioned were success, right? I mean, these are the things like I'm on this mission now to say, I want everyone to live a life that feels successful, not success empty.
I mean, that's genius right there. That's such a good line. When I read that,
I swear it's going to be my TED Talk, sister. I swear it's going to be like,
it should be tomorrow. You're ready.
I'm totally ready.
You are totally ready.
I know I'm ready. I'm like, so, but this is the thing. And it's funny. I've been using that so much, but this is the reality. Now I understand and I have the language, or I've created the language to put to how I was feeling. But I was, you would look at me 5 years ago and be like, she has everything. She's the chief marketing officer of Harley-Davidson. She rides motorcycles around the world. Like, she gets to hang out with all these badass people, all the things. And all of those things were phenomenal. But really my truth, like my insides, I was dying a little bit on the inside, because success for me doesn't equal big paycheck and huge title and sexy iconic brand and material things and, go through the checklist, right? But that's what we're conditioned. That's certainly how I was raised. And that's everything. My dad was that person. He's like, when are you going to be president of the company? When are you going to do this? Like, it was all of those things. So for me to say, I don't think that's what feels like success to me, was really hard because I didn't have the language. And I think a lot of us don't have the language. We're not conditioned that way. Success is really a feeling. It's not a checklist. Imagine if we were taught that when we're young. Like, does this make you feel full? Does this make you feel lit up? Whatever those things are for you. The Amy definition of success is going to be different than the Shelley definition. Based on what I already know about you, I'm guessing we're going to overlap a lot because we see the world very similarly. But what a cool way to think about it. I'm like, I am on a mission. So we all really start to think about every fucking aspect of our lives as full versus empty. And we get to choose how success is defined on our own. Just like we get to choose our titles, like you said.
Well, I think that wording could really reach a lot of people, because I know it's just the story you've heard 1,000 times. And, you've got it too. It's like people that reach the pinnacle of quote unquote success. And then they realize, wait, is this all there is? I don't understand. Why am I not happy? And so many people that haven't achieved that will look and go, what are they talking about? That looks great, And so we have to get it through our heads that is actually a thing. And I think this wording really can resonate, it really, it makes sense. If that makes sense. It does
make sense, right? It's funny. I have my little glossary here. Okay. So here I wrote a definition for successful.
Oh, let's hear it. I love your definitions. I love words.
This is so funny. I literally went through this exercise and I'm like, this is going to pay off at some point in time. I put them out on Instagram all the time. So if you end up following me, you're just going to see me do this.
Yay.
But I think I'm starting working on book number 2, and it's going to be around this concept of successful, because it gives me, it's like the license to talk about this next step of my growth and my expansion. And it applies to leadership as much as it applies to love, as it applies to our mental, physical, spiritual, soulful health, all of the stuff. And so this is how I want us to be thinking expansively about our life. So the definition I wrote, successful, and I literally spell it F-U-L-L because it is, we are full from the inside out. Courageously defining success on your own terms in a way that feels fulfilling from the inside out. accomplishment and impact aligned with your soul's truth.
I love it. I love it. And I personally have in the past, I'd say 10 years or something, I have had to readjust my vision of success. What does that really look like? And that's been such an interesting journey because people throw around the world failed so often. Just taking it from another empty and full perspective.
Yeah.
People throw around the failure part of it. And, I had to look at what filled me up in a totally different way and allow the failure to be redefined. For instance, failed marriage. I'm not a fan of that term. Like, what if somebody had a business for 15 years and, produced a lot of interesting things like children or whatever it is? Would you call that a failure? No. You'd call it, a stepping stone on the path to success. You would call it a success. And so I've tried to take that out of my vocabulary essentially and really transfer it into part of the filling up, part of that success.
I love that.
And I love your
that.
definition.
And you know what? They aren't failures, right? They're learnings. Like I'm divorced, right? And there's nothing about that felt like a failure to me. It felt like a season of my life.
Yes.
And I got a lot of lessons and insights from, and I'm also super clear about the kind of relationship I do want to be in and the kind of relationship I don't want to be in. That kind of feels like a success to me.
And it feels like something that will be full, right? It's like, oh, I have filled up in my growth. I have filled up in what I've learned about what I truly desire, which is, I'm guessing for you and me alike, something fully honest,
Yes.
like that fully honest relationship, which is tough to come by.
They are tough to come by. As somebody who is I'm 3.5 months into a brand new relationship. And it's like, I got to tell you, sister, I don't know, this may fun. You can edit this out of the conversation.
No, I want to hear it. Please. Let's talk about it.
Talk about being vulnerable. So I made a commitment to myself. I'm sure this will resonate with people. I made a commitment to myself. I'm like, okay, you're 51 and you're dating again. And I was divorced 12 years ago. I have been in other relationships, but I took a long pause, took a 3-year pause. I didn't think it was going to be 3 years, but COVID and all the things happened, right? Like I wrote a book and published a book and then COVID happened and whatever. And then one day I was just like, okay, I keep saying this is the year of love and I'm ready to show up again in a really powerful relationship. And so I finally did it this year. And I went on Bumble, wrote a really honest, authentic, badass profile. And I was like, Shelley, this is going to be the first time that you've truly shown up as you, because that's my growth. My growth is that, I still have insecurities and all the things and all the crazy, the Greek chorus in my head of, bullshit and bully loops and all the things that happen. But I was like, nope, you know what? If I really want an honest relationship like you're talking about, then I have to show up as fully me with the same intention that I came into this conversation with: authentic, courageous, and vulnerable, even if it means I get my heart broken. And I have, and it's been work. It's been work. I literally, okay, here's a little thing. Every single time I went to a first date, whether I walked or drove my car, I put, the Greatest Showman soundtrack, the song This Is Me.
Yes.
That's what I played in my ears because I was like, my fucking bumps and bruises and perfectly imperfect everything. This is me. And that's what you're getting. And I ended up meeting a great guy as a result. And it's early days, but I'm challenging myself every day to show up fully as me, not hide any piece of me, even if it means this was a short season in my life.
Because if they walk away, it's not the right thing for you.
Exactly. Right.
And you're forcing and you're doing those things. You're living in that unknown space again, where you're just like, I'm going to allow it. And I'm going to trust that something better is coming. I just have to be as authentic as possible. I'm in that same space. And I have old patterns in relationships of pleasing, of, whatever it is. I'm divorced twice. And so, which was a shocker for me, but I'm in a relationship of a year now and he's in rehab. And so we have a reset possibly. And so are we going to show up as fully authentic as we can. And I know there's things I didn't say. And so I'm like, okay, this is an opportunity. And I'm really leaning into that. And there's a lot of that self-trust in there, just a lot of trust in general, of myself, of the universe, of source. So it's a very interesting journey when you apply all this to your relationships too. So thank you for being vulnerable about that. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
You know what? I think for the first time in my 51 years, right? It feels really badass to show up as fully me unapologetically in a relationship. And it's made me really think about all of my relationships, not just my romantic relationships, but I've kind of taken a step back and said, okay, wait a second. Where are you not showing up fully authentically in your life? Because I'm celebrating the hell out of this. And I'm realizing, you know what? There's some relationships in my life where I'm like not showing up authentically, and why?
And what?
Maybe that relationship isn't serving me. Like I was thinking about a couple of friendships where I'm just kind of like, just sort of like dip in. I'm always kind of protecting myself. And I'm like, why am I doing that? And I just realized I'm like, you know what? If I can't show up, if I don't feel safe to show up fully, authentically, courageously, vulnerably in any relationship in my life, what am I doing in that relationship? And so I think part of this season of trust and surrender is also a season of pruning. Like, why are those people in my life? Right?
Yeah. Do you think you're not fully safe in those relationships or not feeling like you are because you're sensing that you can't fully trust that person? Maybe they're not showing up that way. What do you think that is?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm in the middle of trying to understand it. I don't have the answer. I think that is part of it. So one person who I'm thinking of right now, I think what it is that person was part of a very different season in my life where I was like the fun party girl, whatever, I showed up in a way where it was like, I'd pretend to love to drink beer and watch football and things that I really don't give a shit about. And that just aren't part of who I am and how I want to show up today and what I want to spend my time doing. And so I'm kind of realizing too, it's like, oh, maybe I've carried some people from another season into this season and it's just like it served me well before and I probably served them well before.
Yeah. And I mean, you weren't living authentically then. So maybe y'all's relationship wasn't really based in something authentic anyway.
There's not. Yeah. And if it's not grounded in truth, I just wonder like, what's it doing? And I'll be honest, some of these relationships are from way before I was doing this work. And I really even understood who I am and how I want to show up in the world. And I want to model, the impact that I want to have in the world and how I want us all to be showing up. I didn't know any of this stuff when I met, at least a couple of the people that I'm talking about. I don't see them a lot, but now I'm starting to understand why I don't see them a lot. And I think, honestly, like my how-to on this one is when those feelings come up, get curious. Like curious is one of my favorite words and one of my favorite behaviors. It's like, get curious. Like, well, what's really going on there? Why don't I feel safe? How do I feel? What was this relationship? What has this relationship been based on?
Yeah.
Is that still serving me? Like, get curious and ask those questions. It's profound because I'm definitely in a place of quality over quantity. I want the depth. I want the quality. I want the honesty and the vulnerability and the truth. I don't need any of the rest of it.
Yeah. I was just talking to someone today and she was just asking a question like that. Like, why do I choose men like that? Blah, blah, blah. Or no, someone asked her that. Like, why are you choosing this guy? Why are you doing this? And she just sort of brushed it off like, yeah. And I was like, actually, that's a really good question. Why? Like, that's worth delving into. That's worth. And I just pointed a few things out about my own life. I said, oh, I've chosen, addict after addict. Like, why? Like, what do I need to get to with that? And I just pointed something out with myself. And I was like, I've been curious just about that. So perhaps that's an interesting question. It's fun to get curious. Yeah. It's fun what it can show you. It's hard, but at the same time, you're going to grow from it. You're going to grow.
100%.
Even.
And showing up, I mean, honestly, my pattern, so you say addict after addict, mine has been emotionally unavailable man after emotionally unavailable man, like 100%. And so that was one of the things I was coming to terms in to say, what energy was I putting out there that was calling these completely unavailable men into my life? And then I was just like in it and frustrated and resentful and all the things. And so I can already see that when I show up fully as myself and really set those expectations for someone else from the beginning, that you can only be in my life if you're available.
Yeah. And, there's probably a lot that was buried in that for you because, you were maybe making concessions to limit yourself in some way. Right. And then when you finally go, no, I'm done with that, then that's when you're calling in the king.
And I'll be honest, I didn't think I deserved any better. Like as I was like starting to scratch beyond the surface of that, I think a lot of it was maybe, this was big work that I did when I left. So a lot of this was happening, during Harley and a little bit after, before I got deep into my own sort of soul work and personal development journey and all of it. And I think it was really that I didn't believe in my own worth and my own enoughness and my own value to say, absolutely, I deserve that presence and that connection and that availability and that depth, all of it. And now I know I'm worth it. And that's how I show up. And anything less than that ain't happening in any of my relationships.
Right. And on top of that, you're not settling for it with yourself. When we won't settle for it with ourselves, that's when that really fucking shows up. And then you can say, okay, I'm not even telling a white lie. I am not settling for it myself. I'm going to show up in this integrity space. So if you're not matching that, you're just not.
Yeah. And then your vibe is so high. You're just like, we're only calling in the high vibe connections. Yeah. Right. So and not to say there's not work to do, right? No. Like every relationship has its challenges.
No, but you're showing up in a space of being so honest with yourself that you're going to be honest about even the things that don't make you feel good in that relationship, rather than burying them, which we're so apt to do, which you probably did numerous times in those relationships. And I don't want to answer for you, but I mean, like so many times I would just press down a little bit on the things that didn't feel so good and think, no, that's okay. It's okay this time. It's fine. So what, but no. If we're really honest with ourselves, we're going to facing it.
It's so true. This ties to something we said earlier in the conversation, maybe at the beginning, but for me, I've had to wrap my entire being around this idea that I know that I am a big personality. I know, like, I've been successful. I've been like, I'm intimidating to a lot of people and especially a lot of men. Right. I've had great success and I have a big voice and a big presence and big charisma and big talent and we all do. And I wasn't owning it. I was apologizing for it. And one of the biggest shifts in my life has been owning I'm even like a full figured woman. And I was like, kind of like trying to hide the curves and all the things. And I'm like, no, I'm in a fuck that space. And I actually did some really cool work around spiritual intimacy that helped me break through and just own my bigness. And I wrote this poem around like me just owning all of it and never, ever bowing down to somebody who says you're too much, you're too big, you're too loud, you're too smart, you're too successful, you're too whatever. You're not my person or you're not my people. And it takes a lot for us because owning our bigness is owning our worth and owning our enoughness to like get your elbows out and take up all the fucking space.
Yeah. I don't even like enoughness. I am more than enough. I'm way more
than enough. That? You're right.
What was some of the most powerful stuff that you did when you did that work? Like what was some of the most impactful stuff?
So I have to say the crux of the work for me, and I'm curious if you can relate to this, is We were talking about a little bit off camera. I have grown up, especially in my career, and been wildly successful in very masculine environments.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize.
Is there a more masculine company than Harley-Davidson? I mean, really?
No shit. No shit. Right. And that whole industry, like automobiles and motorcycles and all the things that
right?
Go, it's like gas and oil in the veins. Right. And I have played that game very well. And I was incredibly successful doing it. I didn't even realize it because I didn't have these constructs and these words and this training and all the work that I've done now. And I realized that I was approaching everything in my life, like from the masculine, with my masculine energy. And it was like, yes, it serves you well to a point, but I was completely just sort of like, stuffing down and resisting my wild, beautiful, feminine energy. And that's what this work was about for me. It's the reason that I did this there's a guy named John Wineland who does incredible work in this space and kind of spiritual intimacy and embracing your masculine energy and your feminine energy and your wild feminine energy. And this particular workshop that I did was right at the beginning of COVID. So it ended up being a virtual workshop and really getting me into my feminine for the first time, like understanding what that felt like just to be in that wild, free force of nature kind of space and allow it to be. And to really understand this like ebb and flow of masculine and feminine energy. And that was the catalyst to understanding like, oh, the reason that so many people, men in particular, were thinking I was too big, too much is because I am this wild, beautiful force of feminine energy. And I was trying to like subvert that in a way. And so letting that loose and letting that be more of a guiding force of the flow and the creativity and the energy in my life has really been the breakthrough for me.
Wow. Congratulations. Because that's huge. That's huge. Letting it out. I know there's that meme going around. It's like on TikTok and it's like the sound. And it's like, if I'm too much for you, go find less. Just go find less. Like, exactly. I'm not going to be smaller for you because we've been conditioned and trained to make ourselves smaller. And, if using our voices, we can inspire anyone to let that out and go for it and be the most you can be. Goal achieved.
Well, and telling these stories. I mean, the reason I love that you asked me that question because, I sometimes forget to tell the story that part of my journey has also been understanding like those various energies and that I was showing up in a way like, honestly, Amy, I was trying to be a dude, like in all of like in the boardroom, in the things, like I was rocking the black leather and the boots and riding the motorcycle and all the things. And I'm not saying that those have to be inherently masculine things, but I was owning that. And that's what the company wanted. That's what the industry wanted. That's what success looked like in that particular space. And it has set me free to be like, oh no, this feels so much more natural just to be like in flow and to not have to have everything in a tight container and everything feel so forceful, right? Yeah. But just let it be in flow. And like, that's how I ended up learning how to write the book and just be in that space and let it come out. It's interesting. I actually think it's a really short poem. I think I have this poem on my phone.
I was going to ask you to read it, but then I thought maybe she'd have to hunt it down. So
no, I'm pretty sure it's right here.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Let's see. Oh, I have it. Here it is. I always keep like stuff I write in my notes. Okay. So it's called Bigness. I was always too big for you. Yes, you. Every man in my life, every husband, boyfriend, and potential suitor. Too intense, too successful, too curvy, too bold, too smart, too independent, too charismatic, too much. too much like the wild swells of the ocean, like the raging winds of a monsoon, like the scorching rays of the desert sun. You told me I was a force of nature, too big in every way, and I believed you. I felt crushed and ashamed and misunderstood and unlovable, alone, aching, too big for love. Until now. Now I understand that big is beautiful, that the vast expanse of the divine feminine is powerful. The movement, the energy, the beauty, the expression, the emotion, the leadership, the force that nature intended. Now I choose to show up as she who must be loved in her bigness and ravished in her wild feminine.
That gets me a little choked up. That's beautiful. Absolutely, absolutely perfect.
I get a huge rush of emotion when I read that too. Yeah. Thank you for letting me read that. I haven't read that in a while.
Thank you for doing it. I wanted to ask, and I'm so glad you offered.
Yeah. I just suddenly was like, oh, wait, I have that on my phone. So yeah, I'm glad it worked out. And
me too.
Yeah, it really, I have head to toe goosebumps right now from reading that. And I think it's because I was also seeing how it landed with you. And I certainly hope that touched somebody and many somebodies today, because again, it goes back to, this is why we use our voices and share our stories. And that's hugely vulnerable for me to write that and be speaking that in the world and to say, I'm going into this relationship in all my bigness. And sometimes that's scary. Like I can look at myself in the mirror like everybody else and be like, oh my God, yeah, you are big. And look at your ass and look at this, look at that. And I'm like, no, it's all beautiful, right? This is the divine feminine. And it's such a change from how I was showing up 5+ years ago and how I was showing up for the majority of my adult life. And I feel like I'm just excited to see where it's going to take me.
Well, I think that since you said that, I think that this is a natural progression, bringing it back to what we talked about at the very beginning. I think it's a natural progression to say, oh, okay, I'm going to live in this space of not knowing, of this letting go of control, which is a very masculine thing to do. I'm going to not have the answer. I'm not going to force it into a box or a way of being or a, conclusion, and as if there is one. But, I think that might be part of the natural embracing of this feminine energy, which the whole world could use a lot more of that, dudes included.
Amen.
Absolutely.
And we all have both, right?
Yes.
I'd love leadership to be celebrated, leveraging more of us tapping into our divine feminine energy, all of us, however you identify. Right? We all have both. And it's really beautiful to see more of us coming from this place.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said,
energy.
Like you said, like what would that job of those 26 years have looked like had you brought this energy in there? Who knows? Yeah. The creativity could have flowed in a whole another massive, amazing direction. It probably would have. I would think we could safely say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that. I might have been kicked out of the boardroom at some point, but whatever. I would have been speaking my truth.
Hey, you would have been memorable. That's for sure. They would have remembered it. And there's a lot to be said for being memorable, Yeah.
I don't usually have any problems in that area, but even more memorable.
That's right. No, you don't have any problems in that. And it's so funny. Like so many people can be attracted to that bigness and that just, all of it. And then they want to, put that flame, make that flame smaller or something. And that's such a funny phenomenon to me.
Yeah. I just want less of that in the world.
Me too.
Less of that.
Me too.
Want more of us to feel safe and know that you're supported in, Brene Brown talks about being in the arena, right? Like let's stop having our lives ruled by the assholes in the cheap seats who are never going to be in the arena themselves, but they're going to sit over in the cheap seats and hurl rotten tomatoes at the rest of us because we're out there speaking our truth and telling our stories vulnerably and connecting with and supporting each other. I want to be part of that group.
Me too.
Right. And I want more of us doing that. And that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love that. And thank you for doing that work and for leveraging your voice and speaking your truth. Because as we said, when I first saw you, I was like, thank you. Just thank you.
Thank
we need
you.
more badasses leveraging their voice.
Yeah, we do. We do. Actually, that's my purpose in life, is to use my voice so everyone else's rises higher. And it's taken me a long time to figure that out. You know, I hear you on all fronts. I mean, it's just, and I've had to just be like, that's okay. Your puzzle pieces are going to fit together one of these days. Just relax and go with it. Say what speaks to your heart. Do what speaks to your heart. And one of these days, you're going to look back and you're going to go, hold up. The common thread here was that I used my voice in all of this. That makes sense now. And I don't know, maybe I'm going to see a whole new thread in 10 years. I don't know. But for now, I'm like, oh, finally it makes sense. And I can use my voice to help others. So thank you. And you are too. You know what? You can look back. You're looking back. You're like, oh, it makes sense. My soul journey.
Totally. And for anybody who's at the beginning of this journey, like, I know how overwhelming, we've talked about how overwhelming that can be. I always say, like, every badass accomplishment is a series of tiny steps. So all I invite anybody to do who's listening to this is just take the next right tiny step. Right? Yeah. It's by taking those tiny steps of aligned action that feel in service of our truth and our soul that the doors start to open and we start to move in the direction that we're being called. We've got to get into action around it. And it's okay if it's literally feels like the smallest step in the world. That's what mine was. That's what led me here to us having this conversation today. It was simply going, I know I need to make a difficult, courageous decision to choose me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good, to choose you. Yeah, because you said accomplishment, but I just wanted to say, too, that accomplishment can be something as small as not holding back in the moment.
Yes.
Not holding back a truth that you want to say or a vulnerable moment. Because a lot of times that's where things start to open up. So, you know, when people hear accomplishment, you know, from you, they might think, oh, well, I guess I need to go get a badass job or something. You know, no, you don't. You don't have to go build an incredible website and have your branding down. It really just means taking that little, letting a few words come out of your mouth. That's it. That's it.
I love that you clarified that, because that's exactly what I mean too. And like, so here's a great example of something I'm doing now. From the beginning of the conversation where I said, I'm trusting and surrendering. Someone taught me this concept of like, Shelley, right now you're laying in the hammock. And I was like, what do you mean I'm laying in the hammock? That just sounds lazy. Does that mean I'm doing nothing? And of course, like all of, you know, I'm like start freaking out and sweating. And I'm like, oh, great. Everybody just thinks like all Shelley does is eat bonbons and lay in hammocks and whatever. But I'm realizing that laying in the hammock is giving myself that white space, giving myself permission to rest, permission to play, like we were talking about before, permission to get inspiration and fuel my soul, because that is all contributing to what's next. So even if your tiny step is like you're overwhelmed, like I've been overwhelmed, you're feeling the anxiety, give yourself permission to lay in the proverbial hammock for an hour.
Yes. I mean, that's what we were talking about with extreme behavior. The not doing. That's fucking extreme. That's laying in the hammock. And that's like, that's a big deal. I mean, that's what I've experienced this last month. I've just been like, okay, I'm just going to have to sit here. And like, that's huge.
I know. And hard. It's so scary. It's so scary. It's exactly what I've been doing too. And I'm like, but I can feel every morning I wake up and it's more and more clear. Like I just had this big breakthrough about like my personal brand. I'm like, oh yeah, wait a second. I'm the Shelly Paxton brand. Like I remember asking myself, like, I had always attached my value to these sexy global iconic brands that I'd served for so long. And I'm like, well, what if the Shelly Paxton brand is the most iconic, meaningful, badass fucking brand I could ever represent in my lifetime? Oh, okay. Well, there's a novel idea.
Ooh, that's hot.
Right?
Was that your big breakthrough?
So this has been coming. That's a question I asked when I left Harley, like somewhere along that journey. It's something I talk about in the book, but I had forgotten about it. I mean, listen, this is not a linear journey. The other thing we all need to give ourselves permission to do is to be is nonlinear. And to understand that there are going to be detours and curves and things that don't make sense and cul-de-sacs along the way.
Yeah.
It's all okay. And so for me, I'd kind of forgotten that I said that. And so then I got really attached to this Soulbatical brand, which is what I named my company and this movement and my first book after. And I was starting to feel like I was bumping up against this wall. And so that's what's been coming up for me lately. It was like, I still love and believe in Soulbatical and everything it stands for, but my growth and expansion is bigger than that. It's part of the Shelly Paxton story. So it's time that I get back to the Shelly Paxton story, and all the other things can hang off that story. So that's been one of my breakthroughs very recently, where I was like, oh yeah, I sort of forgot about me.
Yep.
Hello, choose me.
You know what? That's funny, because I thought of that when I was looking at all the ways to find you. It was all Soulbatical. And I was like,
I know.
I was like, that's interesting. And it's just funny that you said that. I found that interesting.
It is. I love that you played that back to me, because funny enough, this is a crazy side story that I'll make very short. I am not connected at all to my ex-husband. So we had a shit show of a divorce, and
Good times.
I write about it in the book from, my perspective, whatever. And we just, he was a season, right? So I didn't even know if he was alive. I met him when I lived in Istanbul, Turkey. He went back to Turkey. We had no contact. He was sort of like estranged from all of our friends, all the things.
Wow.
I shit you not, Amy. 7 days ago, I got a note from him on Instagram. And it was nice. It was just sort of like, but what he said sparked this insight, because he was like, he said hi. And he was like, I accidentally found your book profile on Instagram, because my Instagram handle's @Soulbatical.
Right.
And then just went on to say, wow, didn't know you wrote a book. Congratulations. Short and sweet. And that sat with me, not only the weirdness that he connected with me, but that. And I was like, oh God, is that what people think? Is this like my book profile? And suddenly I just had this massive aha. I was like, wait, it's your website, it's your Instagram handle, it's all these things. And that was the stepping stone to everything else that you're going to do. But your message is going to continue to grow. Your being in the world, your voice in the world is going to continue to grow. And that's Shelly Paxton, not Soulbatical. So you are catching me in the moment. This is literally what I'm trusting and surrendering to. Yeah.
You know what, Shelly?
And that feels good.
It does feel good. I went through this too. As you were saying that, I was like, oh yeah, because this is my third podcast, and never did I feel like, and mine's different than yours. But never did I feel like a worthiness to step into using my name. And I had The Real Show with Amy Edwards. I had Rock Your Life with Amy Edwards. And then as I stepped into this, I was like, I had the vision about my voice about 1.5 years ago. And I was like, all right, I want to step into a new podcast with a podcast network. Like, here I am. And I was like, I want to get really directional. This is the purpose of my life. I know it. And I was like, what would I call it? And then I was like, it's time for me to step into using my name. And I was like, why have I been so resistant to that? I had to, again, get curious like you have, like get curious about anything and just ask those questions. Like, why was I resistant to this? Was I thinking people wouldn't be interested? Like you had to brand it with something to say something, which I think that was part of it. And so it was a process for me to feel like I could call it this and step in and just say, The Amy Edwards Show. and
own it and own it fully.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? And what you're bringing up, I know all of us experience, right? It's that shitty little voice in the back of our head that's like, well, who are you to say X? Who are you to do Y? Who are you? Like that shitty little who are you voice? Like hit the mute button, because you are the voice we need to hear. You are like having the Amy Edwards show. Finally, all I can say is amen. And more of us need to step in and fully own our brand. I mean, I've never said it like that before, but honestly, it is. We are our own brands and fully own our truth and shout it from the rooftops unapologetically.
And it is your voice. And I try to encourage people too. And I know you do. What you have to say is important, whatever it is, and like, it's scary because again, it's vulnerable. And if you're going to really resonate with people, you got to be honest. So it all goes back to your courageous vulnerability and authenticity.
Completely.
Full circle.
Well, and I know, totally, as it always does, right? Yeah. And we went there, which makes me happy. I feel like we lived up to the intention of this conversation.
I do too. Beautiful. I do too. And I just feel like as far as that how-to, those are the keys. Exactly what you said. And paying attention to all the little teeny bits and pieces of it. Getting curious about those. Nothing's too small.
Yeah. Is that weird? And think of yourself as the most iconic brand. I mean, I'm a marketer. I know not everybody is a marketer, but we all are iconic brands. We all are, right? We all are. And I think it changes the way we think about ourselves, right? You are the iconic Amy Edwards. Awesome. And you're owning it and you are shouting it and you are, look at what you're calling in as a result of it. You're having incredible conversations and you're using your voice.
Oh, but
we can all do this.
That little Greek chorus comes right up then and is immediately like, who the fuck do you think you are? Iconic brand. You're not Gucci.
All day long. Like when I was writing the book and I wrote, my book is so raw and so vulnerable. And I made a commitment. Like the intention I set was very similar. I was like, I will not let anybody read this book and think that, I was this polished executive who had her shit together. Cause that was the game I was playing when I was living it in real time. Wow. And I wanted everybody to see what was really going on the inside. Because when I left Harley, I was like, has anybody done this? Can I find any role models anywhere out there? And so I wrote a book that's like me putting my arm around you saying, I got you. And I'm going to share my story so you can reflect on yours, whatever that looks like for you. And I want more of us to do that, to commit to that rawness, that vulnerability, that authenticity, that courage, because that's what helps us own who we are and frankly, connect. That gives us the platform to connect because people want more of that. We don't need more polished Instagram bullshit. We need reality.
Could not have said that better. That was absolute perfection. The way you said that. I can't wait to share it as a clip. Make a note, Alyssa. That was really incredible. Really incredible. And as we start to wrap up, I just want to offer the floor to you. I love what you just said though. But is there anything else that's on your heart or anything you want to reiterate or anything that you want to leave as we go that you don't want to miss saying as we wrap up this amazing conversation?
I think I'll say this, and this is what, anybody in my community who's been listening to me, and I want to share this with your community as well. I've been talking about the fact that, 2020 is the year that shook us, right? Global pandemic. 2021 was the year of the awakening where a lot of us were like, okay, we're in this. And now I'm getting really clear on what matters most to me. And the year of 2022, I'm calling the year of the revolution, right? More of us rebelling for what matters most and the lives we want to create and the voice we want to have. So I want to offer that up to everybody. Think about 2022 as it's the year of choosing you. It's the year of the revolution of creating what you want in your life and rebelling for what matters most to you. And I hope everyone takes advantage of that and creates what really lights them up. The world is going to be a better place for it.
I am so here for it. And so here for your next book. Oh, yay. It's incredible. Thank you.
No, I just have to write the damn thing.
I know, right? I'm writing a book right now too. And it's Yeah, it's a whole thing.
It's a process.
Yes, it is. But that's okay. You've done it before and you can do it again. And so everyone right now can find you at Soulbatical with 2 B's, SOULBBATICAL, everywhere. And maybe that's going to shift. Maybe it's Shelley with 2 E's Paxton.com. Who knows as we move forward.
That's right. There will most likely be, I own all the domains, so it will be some version of that. Soulbatical is not going to go away, but yeah, it will begin to shift in 2022. And I'm excited for that. You'll be able to find me. I mean, Shelly Paxton brings up Soulbatical too. So
yes,
Shelly
it
Paxton,
does. I've done it.
all the things. Yeah, for right now, that's what it is. And I'm super excited to really grow into who Shelly Paxton wants to be when she grows up.
That's right. We have the whole next chapter of our lives. 50 is nothing. We're going to look back on it one day and be like, we were babies. So
we're going to have a good chuckle about all these conversations, which I can't wait for.
Me either. I can't wait to meet you in real life. I will come to Chicago. You come to Austin, and you are a soul sister. And I'm just so happy to keep building this community that wants to lift people up and use your voice to help others and to really help us all rise. And I learned so much from you today. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart, bottom of my soul.
Oh my gosh. And my soul to your soul, thank you. It's been an honor. And I love being a part of your community too. So
I really do. And thank you again for sharing that poem. I mean, it was very powerful, really beautiful.
Thank you for receiving it.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me.
Absolutely.
I'm going to remind myself to read that one every day. I think that's one that's just, that feels like a cornerstone. So
it really,
for bringing it back to the top of the list.
Good. It's so incredibly beautiful. So thank you so much, Shelley. And thank you for the way you show up in the world. It's incredibly inspiring. I'm honored that you were here today. So thank you so much.
Love you, sister. I'm glad the universe brought us together.
Me too.
Cheers to this only being the beginning.
Cheers to that. Huge thanks to Shelley today. Wow. I loved that conversation and I loved her poem. How incredible was that? Such a vulnerable moment to just share right in that space. I'm so glad she read it because as she was talking about it, I was like, oh, I want to ask her to read it so bad, but she'd probably have to look it up and she's on her computer. Like that ran through my mind. And so it was meant to be. So wild when you hear the stuff that you just need to hear. And this was stuff I need to hear. 100%. So cool. So anyway, I'm so glad you were here today. Thank you. If somebody jumped into your mind, share it with them. And go check out Shelley and order her book. Remember, it's at Soulbatical, SOULBBATICAL.com or at Soulbatical anywhere on the socials at Instagram, on Facebook, or on Twitter. So, I encourage you to follow her, check her out. I'm a huge fan and I really like her mission, like a revolution in 2022. I'm here for it. So here for it. Let's do that this year. Let's rebel by being true to ourselves, by being radically authentic, by going for it. I love that. Yeah, this is all my language, 100%, as I'm sure you know. So our affirmation today, I want to say first that I understand that feeling like full authenticity can feel like a process. And it is a process. It's a process and a practice, and it's a muscle that you flex and it gets stronger. So don't feel like you have to jump all in. It's okay. It's okay to go easy on yourself and let things evolve and understand that you're going to get better over time with this whole full authenticity thing. I know I have. And I've just had to just say, that's okay, Ames. It's all right. It's part of your process. So just want to say that first and foremost. So I felt called to say I step into my power through full authenticity, right? Your permission slip, as she called it. I step into my power through full authenticity. I think that's really beautiful. It's just a reminder too. You don't have to hold yourself to any kind of, dogmatic standard and then beat yourself up if you don't achieve it. No, you just have permission to step into your own power and to be fully authentic and own it all. Own your big. I own my big. There's a good one. All right. I love you. I want to say a huge thank you to you for being here. If you can find it in your heart or time schedule to write a quick review or rating. Mostly it's on Apple Podcasts. Anywhere else that you listen to these, though, if you see a spot, if you could do that, I would be so grateful, because that's what helps this grow. And these powerful voices reach more people and inspire more. And like she said, I mean, if we all start doing that and growing into this revolution of our souls and this authenticity, the world's going to be just kicking it, a constantly better place. So anyway, I just ask you to share if you can and tell somebody about this show or one that's spoken to you. And I'm really grateful. Always reach out to me too. You can reach me on Instagram at Real Amy Edwards, or you can reach me at amy@amyedwards.com. I would absolutely love to hear from you. Love to hear what Other Esteem brought up for you. Love to hear anything that Shelly brought up for you, or how you are stepping into your authenticity. Yes, please share. Or write in the comments too. I need to check those out and share that too. Remember that you can find her at Soulbatical anywhere. And you can find me, of course, Real Amy Edwards, amyedwards.com, or at The Magic Babe on TikTok, where I just share little bits of stuff that speak to my soul. Thanks to Hot Pie. Thank you, Alyssa, our producer. And these new episodes come out every single Thursday, and just stoked to be developing 2022 with you. Remember, there's no magic pill. You are the magic pill. You are the magic yourself. You don't need anything else. That's right. So just keep doing the work and showing up as you, because that's badass. Till next time. Thank you so much for listening. If you liked this show, please rate and review. It totally matters. And I encourage you to spread the love too, and share this episode with a friend if you feel called.